Good. All right. Welcome back to the MuuvWell Podcast. I'm Logan. I've got my cohorts, Kevin and Wade here.
That sounds fancy.
My cohorts, and we've got Abby on the other side of the table. Today is a really, really cool conversation because Kevin's going to tell us how he started MuuvWell with just a $20 bill and has had no ups and downs, no struggles or anything. Yeah, it's just been the easiest thing he's ever experienced. That was a Chad Wright intro right there, wasn't it? That's how Chad starts his. He knows everything. No, but I think it is going to be a cool conversation because today we are talking about pretty much the evolution of MuuvWell and how it started and how it's changed a lot. And then also just talk about pretty much the why, how, what a part of the business. And I think it'll be really cool for you all to talk through that because I joined this team at the very, very end of December or 2022. So December of 22. So I just hit my 2-year mark. But MuuvWell started in 2020. And so there's about, almost 3 years that I didn't see. And so I've seen a lot of the nitty gritty stuff and it still is, but you all really saw that. And so I think it'll be cool to kind of share the story of how it started, what that looked like, what it looked like whenever Wade came on, and kind of how you all have evolved the business before you had ownership, now that you have ownership and all that stuff. So I think honestly, we'll just get right into it and just talk about why. So you kind of shared your story a little bit, Kevin, but just talk about like why you started MuuvWell. What was the itch? What kind of gave you that moment of realizing that the world needs MuuvWell?
Well, I didn't really have a great why, to be honest with you. So I would love to tell you that it was all the pillars that we have now and all the purpose-driven stuff that we do for our clients and honestly for ourselves internally. But there really wasn't that. I just wanted to own a business, honestly. And I just felt like that's what I was calling to do. And before I get into that, I want to share a story with you.
Okay.
And because I think this is very relatable. This will kind of set the stage for the conversation moving forward. And I've told you all this. I don't think I've said it on the podcast. You guys have heard this before probably, so I'm sorry. But when I was in college, we would go out to a rock quarry. Have I told you this story? Yeah. And I went out there. I've only been there once actually in my life, and it was at 2:30 in the morning. And my cousin told me, step on the edge of this cliff and jump. You couldn't see the water. And he said, just jump. It's going to be safe. I promise you. And for some reason I listened to him and I jumped. And I remember floating in the air, not knowing I was going to hit the water, but just trusting I was going to be safe. And I splashed in. And I remember like looking up, actually. I don't know why I did that. I remember looking up as I was going down. It was really pretty night, seeing the stars. And all of a sudden it was like, boosh, and it felt like a movie, but it was just that blind trust. And I think that's really what business ownership is, or not even just ownership, but just leading a business. Even if you're the CEO of a business or manager of a business, we want to say we have it all in control. We know every turn to take, but you really don't. I mean, and a lot of people don't want to admit that to their staff and their team, but sometimes you've got to just trust God. You've got to get some lucky breaks and those kind of things. And I think for me, that's really what it's been from the beginning was, the right people, right time, right place, right time. Really not so I don't want the purpose of this podcast to be like me and Wade are so awesome. Our team's so awesome. We did all this stuff and look what we did. Like we've really gotten lucky with a lot of stuff. I honestly, a lot of the stuff is God just laid out for us and it just worked. And who knows, we have clients that listen to this and everything. And I just want to say, we fully expect MuuvWell to be here for a long time, but that might not be the plan all the time. And sometimes you just gotta admit that and trust that and then enjoy the journey. And I'll tell you, and I started thinking about business ownership. I mean, I've always wanted to own a business since I was a young kid. That's just, I think, the way I'm wired. And I was lucky enough to be in the trenches from beginning of my career in this field with somebody that really cared for me. And, he was a business owner and really let me see kind of behind the scenes how a business worked. And I was like, man, I want to do that one day. But it took me a long time to get there. And I remember in 2017, I wrote this thing called Vision 2020, and it was all the things I wanted to happen by 2020. And I just put it in my desk in my cubicle at my office where I was working. And I just looked at that every day. And it was, those things just started happening and lining up. And luckily I was able to make some connections with Dr. Kyle Turnbow that owns HealthWorks Medical and, had some common interest, and we were able to start a business. So in the beginning, it was just really, hey, I want to start a business. I want to start something. I want to create something. I feel called to do that. What I knew at the time that I could start a business in was either baseball, which I'd walked away from, or it was corporate wellness, injury prevention. And very early on, the focus was more on injury prevention, which is still a big part of our company. But that was really all I knew. And I was like, let's just go do it. Like I didn't have like a big mission behind it. I'll be honest. Like I didn't really know what my why was at the time, other than I feel like I'm called to own a business or start a business. I didn't own it at the time, and just create something and just kind of followed that. And that was really my starting point. Like there was I didn't know about business. I don't have a degree in business. I have a degree in kinesiology, and just had a passion for starting something, creating something.
And I think that's perfect right there. Is you said you had a passion, right? Who was the guy that spoke before you at the conference?
It was Ross. I can't remember his last name.
Rosenstein. Something like that. And he was talking to a group of professionals and just saying, like, if you want to do anything in life, if you want to be successful and you don't believe in it, you don't have passion, you're probably not going to be successful with it. So that's what really drew me in whenever I came to work for the team. Is Kevin and I had worked together maybe 3 to 4 years before, not every day side by side, but we had seen each other. I'd always be mad at him because he'd beat me to the treadmill at lunch every day. So like I would not get to run during lunch or make an excuse to not run during lunch. But once we both finally left that job and we had an ability to connect, the reason I wanted to come work for then, it wasn't MuuvWell, right? It was a different job. Was I saw Kevin's vision and his passion that he had painted for the company, and I could see what it could become. We're not anywhere near where we want that to become yet, but I could see him starting to lay that out just in the early conversations and how passionate, how driven he was. And I wanted to be a part of it. So that's what really got me started within MuuvWell. And then obviously I have some other reasons why I really want to work with the employees that we work with, just because I know times are hard. People are struggling every day. I know y'all have heard me tell my story about my dad, just seeing him work countless hours at a factory, coming home, farming, and then also providing and taking care of our family. And I know that's the story for the majority of Americans that you know, right? And it's a struggle, and it's hard physically and mentally and spiritually on their body. And if I could help be a part of something small that helps improve their lives or provide resources that they wouldn't have access to, I wanted to be a part of it. So that's why I was really excited to do it.
And I say I didn't have a why. I mean, I think that was probably my why of like, I think I didn't really see that my job could also be kind of my calling.
Yeah.
I thought those were separate things. And I think my why was what you just said. It's like, I really want to help people. I want to build a relationship with people. Yeah. People are working really hard, but I think I didn't necessarily know how to do that other than a few small things. We do it so differently now, as we've learned over time. But yeah, I think there's always been a passion for that. And, when I played coach baseball, I realized what I loved about that was helping people perform. And then I realized later on, it's like I could do that the same way, just in a different type of field.
Yeah.
But again, I wasn't really sure how that would all play out and look, but I did have a passion for building a great company, for really investing in our team, and then also doing the same for our clients. So it definitely MuuvWell. Again, it was a different name even back then.
Yeah.
It looks very differently now as a product than how it started, but it's just cool as you start going, you just start figuring it out,
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably why you feel like you really didn't have a why, because it's evolved so much. Like at the time, there was probably something that felt big in your head, but it's evolved so much, and you see what it really can be now. That time probably feels a lot more minuscule than what it actually was in the moment too. It's like hindsight's always 20/20 on stuff like that. But I think talk about the process of how you started it now, because you touched briefly on, like, you had a partner, you had somebody that your vision's pretty well aligned at the time of what this could be. And obviously it's evolved a lot since then, but just talk about like the starting point. Like, how did you start the business?
Yeah. Again, just got really lucky. Honestly, I did some contract work for HealthWorks Medical down in Paducah and got to meet Dr. Turnbow. And anybody that knows Dr. Turnbow, he's a high energy, dynamic guy. And was just like, after a few months after that, he's like, hey, let's start another entity related, a sister company that does more of the injury prevention wellness side of things. And just really trusted me. I mean, like I don't know why he did it. Honestly, looking back, like, he really trusted me and basically started a company and just let me run it. And in the beginning, it was just me. And And I was not a partner in it, but I kind of got to act like I owned it in a sense, because he gave me a lot of trust and a lot of freedom, and which was great. And I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm very thankful for him for being patient with me, because I know I made a lot of mistakes and probably did a lot of dumb things, and still will continue to do that. When you're trying to build and grow something, you make mistakes. Like, it's just the way it is, and that's okay. It's healthy. But yeah, it just we started it 2020. I started part-time in January while I stayed on my old job. And then in March 1st of 2020, so we're right at the 5-year anniversary, basically, I left my old job and went full-time with this. And on the 5th, had a baby. On the 12th, COVID shut the world down, and we were going on site to customers to do stuff, and predominantly working with their safety and HR representatives at the companies, and they were all covered with COVID. So it was a kind of a scary time, especially, to leave a pretty secure job where, I was well taken care of and probably had a future, I think, maybe, I don't know, but it felt like it was pretty secure. But yeah, and just kind of, it was such a blessing, all the COVID stuff, in a sense, from a business standpoint for us, because that's when a lot of what MuuvWell is, and I really started understanding the why behind it, and all that stuff started developing during that time, because I had a lot of time to develop and brainstorm and be creative. And I rented an office from a local church, and because I just needed a quiet space to work. And that's what it was. Like, I would sit in there and quiet, and I would stress, honestly, like, gosh, I got to create something. I got to do this. And I had a lot of time to think. And that's where a lot of these ideas were born. And MuuvWell, the name, was born there. MuuvWell.com, all that stuff was born just me sitting in this little office by myself, trying to be creative. But a lot of it, honestly, was born in the night when I couldn't sleep. Like, I was just up. Not necessarily like stressing, because I wasn't up because I was so stressed, but I was just so full of ideas and energy. And I just couldn't sleep. That's all I could think about and work on and stuff. And so a lot of that was born during COVID, and we didn't know how to develop an app or anything back then, and kind of got that started around COVID, and didn't really have any. We started working on it, and it took a couple years before that really started working or catching on. But I'm actually really thankful for that time. In the moment, it was very hard, scary, and I wanted to be driving revenue into the company, all that kind of stuff. But it's just it was just a slow period. And again, thankful that Dr. Turnbow was patient with me in that, because he could have said, "Hey, we have no money coming in, we can't afford you," but he honored that, and I never missed a paycheck, so that was really special. And again, just right person, right time, lining up. God just kind of set those things up for me. And around that time is when Wade and I started talking a lot. He'd gone home to take on the director role at a hospital. And I am not a physical therapist, and a lot of the initiatives we had were PT related.
Right.
And so pretty soon after you left our old job, gave him a call and said, "Hey, I need some help." And you made some money, but really you pretty much worked for free. And it's still like, that to me is the most humbling thing, of like how many people just came alongside. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of ideas like during COVID, and that's all I had was ideas, and I couldn't get those ideas to come to fruition, most of them, until Wade joined our team, honestly. And then all of a sudden those ideas started turning into real things. And then all of a sudden we had a product, and we had, we started having sales, and we started creating revenue. And I am really thankful for that, because I think all I would have done is just sat in a room and had ideas for 5 years and probably maybe not be doing this now. And so, and I think now we have a full team of people, and I'm about to send an email. Like, I just did payroll, and we've got 13 people that are a part of this,
Crazy.
Yeah. And it's just in 5 years, and it's just like, wow. And really, you all the ones that make it all happen. Like, I just had a lot of ideas back before. So, but yeah, you really literally work for free.
Yeah. Talk about your job.
I got a small paycheck.
A little bit, but but you were so dedicated to the vision of like what this could be, and we can help people. And I'm forever thankful. And also Kyle Balliot, who was an original partner with us, same thing. I just had two guys that were just like, "Hey, let's go do this." And that was just so empowering for me.
Yeah. No, I think it all just comes back to what I said in the beginning, man. You just did such a good job of painting the vision of what it could become, that I would have been stupid to not try to become somewhat of a part of it, and eventually led to I don't know if I've told it on the podcast or not. It was the week my daughter was born. We had just gotten home. My wife was home on maternity leave, and I told my wife, hey, I'm going to quit my job, safe job at a hospital, director of a hospital outpatient rehab facility. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to go all in with Kevin. Like, I can see what this is going to become and what this business can be. I'm going to quit my job. And she was just like, this is a lot to take in. We got a new baby at home. I'm postpartum. Can you just shut up for 10 minutes? I'm like, all right, well, I'll
and took a pay cut to do that too. I mean, so that's
yeah.
all.
So yeah, it was a pay cut. Yeah. But I think in the long term, I can see what it's going to return and pay back way more, versus a few $1,000s here and there in the short term. It isn't very much, but yeah. So, I mean, I started working for him, and it kind of started our last day of my job here in Bowling Green. I just kind of pulled Kevin out in the parking lot and was like, hey man, if you ever need a PT, I just overheard him telling somebody about the job he was doing. I was like, if you ever need a PT, just let me know, man. I think it'd be fun to work with you one day. He called me probably a few weeks later. I always say it's the next day, just joking with people. It felt like the next day. And he was like, hey, I got this person that's injured. Do you mind to take a look at him? I was like, sure.
It was like that fast. There was no like strategic, like, hey, let's get you on board and train you.
No, and I just figured it out as I went. And that's something our former boss that Kevin and I both worked for, that it may have been frustrating in the meantime, but like he had you just figure things out on the fly, which I mean, it's just a lot of critical thinking skills, and you just figure it out, and like, you just don't have the time to. Things are fast paced, and you just have to figure it out, or you're in a sink or swim. And I think me and Kevin both learned how to swim a little bit in that time frame in life. But once I moved back home, the hospital was great to me. I loved working with the people in my community. But it was hard for me to see myself doing that for the next 30 years, and it was every day, a lot of chronic pain patients. Once again, loved the patients, loved working with them, but I wanted to be a part of something bigger than that. Not saying that's not big at all, and if that's your calling and that's your passion,
something different.
I just wanted something different.
And
something that was more flexible for my family. Honestly, like, I mean, I was there from 6:30 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. most days, and then doing paperwork on top of that. And it just got to the point where I wasn't working out. Financially, I was making good money, but I wasn't any happier making more money. We had just become debt free right before Eliza was born. So we had that opportunity to take a leap of faith in something because we had that financial flexibility. And so it was just kind of like Kevin said, like times, or we just had points in our lives where things just broke, or people came into our lives at the right time, or business opportunities presented itself at the right time. It was like 2 years earlier, I probably would have said no to Kevin, right? But it was just like at the right time, the right opportunity, everything, the stars aligned perfect for me, just kind of join the team. And it would have been dumb for me not to say yes at that time. So
I want to kind of jump in here, because as you guys talk, it makes me think about where I am in the phase of life of even before I went to college. I'm freshly graduated now, but there's so much pressure to kind of choose one job and stay there for the rest of your life. And I even found when I transferred schools that there was a lot of identity I was placing in myself of like, but this is what I told myself I would do. This is what the plan was supposed to be. And now people are going to think I'm a failure, or people are going to think this, or blah, 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 blah. Like, was there a thought that you had when leaving these, pretty substantial jobs to go to something that didn't really at the time have a backbone? Like, was there something that flipped the switch for you and you were like, no, I'm going to do it. I don't care. Talking about leaving these jobs and you couldn't do it anymore and you couldn't see yourself there for a while. Like, what was the light switch moment, if you had one?
It sounds like it was the vision, a lot of it, right?
I think it was the vision. Plus, I think for me, it was when my daughter was born, because I feel like when you become a parent, it opens your eyes to not just saying your child's everything, but what's really important in life. And so it brings in a lot of faith on top of that as well. And I didn't want to keep working 30 years at this job, being away 50, 60 hours a week to make a good wage, to provide a good life for my kids per se. I'm still putting in those hours right now, but it's not any different on the hours front, but like I'm able to be more flexible, have time with my kids, plus just be able to be more present with them. I think that's the big thing with that. And I feel like my wife's and I's lifestyle has drastically changed because of that choice, and I think it's honestly like just being around Kevin more. Like, he does things so differently. Like, he is just so weird. and
In a
he
good way.
embraces the weirdness. I don't know. Sometimes it's a good way. He just makes you think. Right?
70-30, good split.
I mean, more like 60-40, but we'll go 70-30. But just makes you think, and he's just made me think a lot from the very beginning. And not only has it like opened opportunities in business, but just like family life too. So I think for me, what opened my eye was my daughter being born, and like, is this the path I want my family to keep going down? Yeah, we can make a lot of money. My wife was working at the time. My daughter was in daycare. Obviously, nothing wrong with people being in daycare, but we were spending so much time away from our daughter. So my wife ended up quitting her job after I quit my job, like a year and a half later when she was pregnant with our son. So obviously that lit even more of a fire, kind of like reignited it, being like, yeah, you got to figure this out, Wade, and like provide for your family. So I felt like for me, it was both time when our kids were born, and that just really kind of pushed me over the edge.
I think for me, I mean, my big decision point was deciding not to do baseball. That sounds crazy, but that was several years earlier, and then from there it was like this journey because I think you were a different scenario than me because I wasn't making a lot of money. Like I had to do better for my family, and I think that's where I saw was like I've got to do something different, or I can't support my family because exercise science degree is great, kinesiology degree, but it's like you have to really work your way into making decent money with that. It's not like a PT where you can start with decent money. Didn't want to go to PT school, so I was just hustling, honestly, just trying to figure out how can I make more money. Yeah. And so when I walked away from baseball, I'll be honest, like I'll tell people this, I was making $33,000, and we had a child, owned a house, and had one income.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how we did it, honestly. Yeah. Now that was back in 2015, but still, it's not. I mean, it's changed, but still, that wasn't a lot of money.
You didn't even have your own garden, your own
own
animals. You weren't making your own bread then.
No, off of grocery only.
Yeah, I mean, so I did a lot of baseball lessons to supplement that, but it was just a lot of prayer and stuff. And so for me, it was just like, okay, I have to. And I was able to grow where I was at and got a different job, was making better money, but still I knew it wasn't enough to support our family long-term for what I wanted for our family. And so for me, it was like, I can do this. And if it fails, I can go to a factory and make what I was making. So I was like, I just got to make it work.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of capital to just go start a business. And so luckily again, I was able to not have some ownership and start something new, but get a salary. And so that was really important. So you hear all these like podcasts and stuff where it's like, just quit it all, go all in.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I couldn't do that. Like I had people that had a second kid on the way, all this stuff. But I just knew, I was like, I kind of knew what I wanted for my family. And I was like, I'm just going to try to create that basically.
Can you talk about a quote from 1519? It's about Spanish explorer.
Oh yeah, that's not too long ago.
Gosh, yeah. Were you just looking at that?
I just looked up what year it was from. So you had actually just mentioned that to me not too long before I quit my job.
Yeah.
And what's a quote, Kevin?
Burn the boats. Yeah.
Burn the boats, right? Yeah. So he sent me a long story. I mean, what were they doing? They were conquering an island, I think, and it was
they came to Central America. Cortez arrived, and he knew if the boats were sitting on the shore and they had that security blanket, basically of being able to go home, they weren't going to dig in and really, whether you like it or not, conquer this area. So he literally had them burn all of their boats. And it's like, we're here.
Plan B.
We're no plan B. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it, Wade. But
chicken skin.
But yeah, I remember I heard that story. I actually heard it from my brother Jim.
Yeah.
And then I think
I think you forwarded on to me or whatever.
I made a LinkedIn video about it. Actually, okay. I think you saw that in the like around that time.
Really?
Baby. That's what you told me. But yeah, I was just like, you know what? If I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail big, and I'm going to try to start something. And I was like, I could stay where I'm at safe, but it's just like, it's not really what I wanted,
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where I saw the hospital for me. It was that safety net. It was security. And I just had to burn the boats. And that's, I kind of use that lingo in telling Janae, and she's like, you're just freaking crazy. Quit talking to this Kevin guy and just leave him alone.
Well, I think
but eventually worked out here now.
Yeah. Well, I think what that is just being willing to take a risk, honestly. Yeah. And I think like, obviously that's like a metaphoric way of looking at it, especially people like us, like burn the boats. Like we don't think twice about it when we tell our wives, yeah, we're burning the boats. I'm quitting my job. And that's a little scary.
Getting rid of my family and everything.
Well, and that was something I had to grow. Like, it's easy to say those comments. But we're so hardcore. But it's like, no, you almost have to practice that stuff with little things along the way.
Yeah.
And also, when you burn the boats, you also need to be confident in your decision and put a lot of thought
and intentional
in it to where you feel confident enough that I can burn those boats.
Mhm.
I think the person that just burns the boats without thinking it through, or like Abby,
Being
like
intentional,
being like there's nothing wrong with going a different course or different direction, but let's be smart about it, intentional. Let's seek guidance. Let's pray about it. Let's bring it to God.
Yeah.
And you're never going to know for sure. And like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I was driving by the mall the other day and just looking at Sears, like massive company that went out of business. Kmart, massive company, they're shut down. Blockbuster, massive company, shut down. They could have been the first in the streaming. They didn't think that was going to take off.
Yeah.
They're gone in 2 years.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen, but you need to put some thought and seek guidance and prayer. And then if you feel that is where God's calling you, and it still could be wrong, by the way. And it's like that Thomas Merton prayer I talk about all the time, but that's what it says. Like, I'm going to follow what I think you're calling me to. And if it's wrong, I'll just adjust. And I'm sorry if it's wrong, but I think that the desire to please you, God, is enough. And if you feel that God is really calling you to it, or if you're not a Christian, whatever your higher purpose is, or whatever, I guess, if you feel very convicted that you have to do it, then you do it. But you don't jump into it without putting some thought or prayer, guidance, wisdom, counsel, something like that.
I also found it cool at C12. I think it was my first month I was there. And I think Mark, who's the chair of the C12 here, has talked to us about it before when he comes to us, is God appreciates risk. And he kind of went through the parable of the talents, where a master entrusted 2 employees with money.
Oh, yeah.
One went out,
I remember that one.
Basically doubled his money or triple. I can't remember how much, but the other guy just buried his treasure and then brought it back to him, but took no risk, and it was just a way of Jesus just kind of laying out for us, like, if we have those talents and we don't use them and we don't take risk to put our talents out there to do for the better good, there won't be much reward to it. Yeah. So I think this business is an opportunity for our talents that we have, and to take that risk to hopefully just further his kingdom here on earth, honestly.
Yeah. Well, someone that does have a lot of talents is Mr. Logan Locke. And somewhere along the timeline.
How much did he pay you to say that?
Oh, listen.
Just keep going, Abby. Keep going, Abby.
You all were
Keep
in
going,
here a
Abby.
lot before we started this podcast.
We were whispering in here. Abby,
Logan's face is getting red.
Tee me up. You got me blushing.
I will say, I work a lot on the similar projects with Logan. And so just, feel like he's kind of a mentor at this point, and me coming along very recently, but somewhere along the line, you came into the picture as well. And so I want to ask you, how did you start with MuuvWell? And then what was the thing that kind of, prompted you to make that switch and make the jump as well?
The start to Logan starting MuuvWell actually started about 6 months before.
Oh, yeah.
So tell your story.
I think it was longer than 6 months.
And then I'll have Kevin tell his about how long we've been profiling this guy.
I say, you guys never told me the
stalking
full story.
him on runs, seeing where he ran at. We go watch him run, make sure.
Like other binoculars, looking through the fields.
I was peeking in your family's. But go ahead and talk about yours. But then I want Kevin to talk about how long we've been kind of.
Yeah. Well, I've seen,
not to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, it's okay. You guys, I'm here long enough. I'm here long enough now. Yeah. No, but I think what I was kind of thinking the whole time you two were talking was like, I'm starting to see both sides of, when I was just married, like it was just my wife and I'm like young, it didn't have any other responsibilities, and seeing how working for this company served me then. And then now having a family and how it's still serving me now. And it's funny, like, I feel like it serves me more now and I find more benefit of it. And part of it, I think, is just growing in the roles that I'm in, but then also like seeing and appreciating the flexibility that working for this company has for a family. Like I told Kevin the other day, I don't think I told you, Wade, but and my wife loves her job. Like she loves what she does, but she's made the comment before, and she said it like 2 weeks ago. Like, I just have to find my MuuvWell. And I don't know, I'm getting cold chills thinking about that, because she was like, I just see that like 99% of the time you love what you do. You have the flexibility to do things. Like everybody there understands that when our kid is sick or has a doctor's appointment, like they're okay with us having to step away. And it's never like, oh, Logan's doing this again or whatever, as long as it's communicated effectively and all those things. And so I think that just speaks volumes to the business. But so whenever I found MuuvWell, I went to college at WKU, got both my degrees in sport management, got my master's in intercollegiate athletic administration. So like specifically,
that's a mouthful.
I know. Yeah. They like to make it's an easy degree to get. So they like to make it sound cool. No, but I was working full time when I got it. So it was just really just a lot of like time balance. But so with that being said, like I was fully anticipating working in college athletics forever. Like I remember telling my family in like 2019, I'm going to be an associate athletic director at a Division I institution. Like that's my goal. Like at a really ideal, like a Power 5 D1. And then obviously COVID hit. And once COVID hit and it kind of slowed everything down, I realized how many hours I was working with college sports. Like easily in the fall, I'm working 60 to 70 hours a week easily. Like you work so much year round that over the summer they weren't making us use vacation because they're like, we realize how much you're working. And so once that all slowed down, I was like, I don't really think this is sustainable. And at the time, Emily and I knew we wanted to have a family and we want to have multiple kids. We were like, I just don't see this being a really healthy work space for me. So at that point, I started looking for other roles. And I really, at that time, I was like, I almost want something really corporate that is like strict 9 to 5. That way I'm not working outside of hours. Because I've just been so used to that for the last 3 years. And so then I got a job working at Spalding, which was owned by Fruit of the Loom, and did that for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. Did a lot of like product development, product marketing. It was a big learning curve because I'd never worked in like sports apparel. But I loved that job, but it was really, really corporate. And I did a lot of travel over the summer to really cool places, working travel ball tournaments to kind of get the product out there. And I loved that part of it. At the time, we still had no kids, and I wasn't looking for anything. And then Kevin approached me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, man, like I see where you run. You're local to Bowling Green. I'd love to just like meet up and get a run in and just like talk business pretty much. So Kevin and I met up at a park. Didn't know who the guy was, but met up with him.
Was it
And
daylight yet?
thank goodness it was daylight.
Well, it was like sun was coming up.
Yeah, it was daylight, but barely. But I brought my friend with me just in case Kevin tried to pull anything
That's my
crazy.
favorite part.
Yeah, I brought my friend Jeff and I were going to run that morning. I was like, you just want to come with me? I'm meeting some random guy. So shout out to Jeff Burton for
awesome.
saving my life.
Yeah.
Kevin was either going to try to get me to work for him or kill me. We don't know yet.
Once he saw Jeff, he knew he had to go
Yeah.
one way or the other.
We saw Jeff's quads. He's like, I'm not messing with
Yeah.
Logan. So Kevin and I met up and ran, and that was just honestly, I think that was just like his way of scouting me, I assume. So met up, went on a run, didn't even really stay in touch a whole lot. We just exchanged numbers, and he was like, hey, let's just stay in touch if it comes down to it. So probably like 6 to 10 months later, like maybe even close to a year later, Kevin randomly texted me and was like, hey, it's Kevin Wynn. Can you call? Like, I was like, yeah, sure. So he called me and basically was like, hey, company MuuvWell that I'm running, like I'm wanting to get somebody with marketing. Do you know of anybody, or are you interested? And I was like, I'd love to just learn more about it. So then we met up for another run, and he kind of explained what MuuvWell was. But honestly, at the time, I just liked the passion that he had, and basically he was explaining the bigger vision. Like, I want this to impact millions of people and do all these workouts and do YouTube series and video and blah, blah, blah. And to give some context, I wasn't doing any type of creative work or social media, anything for a business. I was doing it for myself. Like I was creating vlogs about my personal journey, like fitness journey, and just kind of like lifestyle content. At the time, it was really like fitness heavy. And Kevin had just seen a lot of that and was like, I like your style. Like if you'd be interested, I'd love for you to entertain it. So then we just kind of stayed in touch. And then over the course of pretty much like 4 months, I think it was a lot of like getting the position approved. I don't really think he was like getting the position
we didn't even have
approved.
approval or money to hire
Yeah.
you.
And in my head though, I was like, oh, he just getting, I thought you were just kind of getting the tiny things fixed. I had no clue in my head that you were having to get it all approved. Kevin having, but at the same time, also I kind of had the stability at the current job of like, well, if this doesn't work out, I have this role that I'm in and I'm okay with it. But again, I just knew long-term that wasn't me, and it was nothing to the company. It was just like, I had so much to give. I just didn't know where. And so, yeah, it kind of progressed over the next like 4 months of job getting approved, and they offered me the job. And whenever I started, really, I went in pretty much blind to what the role was going to be, just knowing that you guys had a lot of passion, and I could see where our values aligned a lot. And honestly, I knew that this was going to be the perfect opportunity for me to like really lean into the creative side. And I told you all very candidly, I've never done any type of social media or content creation for a business, only for myself. And you all were like, that's fine. We just like your style.
Yeah.
We like you. And they were like, and we agreed that let's just kind of grow together. And so I think, honestly, it was like picture perfect because it allowed me to, I've seen so much growth that sometimes I just forget it and take for granted, like how much growth I've seen. And then it kind of allowed like the brand to develop too, I think, along the way. So that's kind of where my journey started. Really same as Wade, like just fueled by passion and vision of what I thought this place could be based on Kevin's words and ideations. So
Yeah, so I that little office I was talking about renting, I found you on Instagram. I'd never been on Instagram before, and I guess so. So
he DM'd you on Instagram, not LinkedIn, right?
No, it was LinkedIn.
Are you sure? What
He messaged me on LinkedIn.
Well,
I know
because
you had messaged me from the MuuvWell page at some
okay,
point.
You probably like, who's this weird? Yeah.
I just
think
didn't
you
know who it was.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe if I sent it from LinkedIn, you would
Yeah.
know, like
A little more
person.
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, I was like, oh, that's who this MuuvWell account is.
Yeah. And yeah, so I was up in that office and I saw you start posting stuff, and I was like, man, this guy's got some really good style and all this kind of stuff. And you were posting about trying to run a sub 3 hour marathon, I guess. And yeah, I was just paying attention. I was just starting to pay attention to what you were doing and stuff like that. And then I think pretty early on, probably then, like Wade wasn't even working for us. Like this Logan Locke guy, like this guy could create something or do something for us. And we started talking. I mean, probably 6 months to a year.
If you go look back on our monthly meetings, you're on the IDS Logan Locke,
That's
and
hilarious.
we were going through
months before we probably even ran together, like months.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so I mean, I already so the basically the whole plan of that first outreach was to see if you were legit and like to validate what I was thinking I was seeing. I was like, okay, I think it is legit.
But didn't you came back from that meeting and said, I smoked him on the run, but I think he's a good guy.
yeah. I said he's really.
Isn't that
slow.
what you say? He's really slow.
Oh, yeah, something like that.
He can't keep up with me uphill.
He's got to work on his own too, but otherwise, I think he's got a lot of potential.
So I've said this. The only thing I think I'm good at, I don't even know about the vision thing, but you guys keep saying it, so maybe that's something I'm good at. I don't know, but is maybe I have passion. I keep hearing that from people, but the only thing I think I'm good at, maybe I'm not, is is just finding good people. Like I think that's the only thing I'm good at. I really believe that, and I think the proof of that is that I couldn't get anything going on my own until I got good people around me, and then stuff started happening. And I do think that goes back to my dad being a pro baseball scout. Like that's how I grew up. And and I say like that wasn't just my dad's career. Like that was his life's calling, passion. It was to like build relationship with people. And like I really learned how to evaluate people, because I mean I would go. We were homeschooled, and I would go with them everywhere to every game, all the time. So I would get there 3 hours early, and we'd watch people, like we would watch players literally, like how they would wear their uniform. Were they the first one out? How do they interact with their teammates? He would go talk to their coaches before he ever had contact with the player. And if he didn't get good feedback, he wouldn't be interested in that player. So anyways, I think that's always been ingrained in me. And I think that's what I started recognizing with you and you, Abby, honestly. Yeah. And well, all of you guys, I was like, whoa, this person's got.
Oh yeah, and Wade, that's right.
Y'all are great people. And Wade's over here.
And Wade, I forgot he's here.
He just needed a PT, and I was the first one he saw, so he just couldn't say no.
This guy's young. He's clueless.
Yeah. But it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this person's got the stuff. Like, and I truly believe, and we've talked a lot about talents, but I think you can have talent and really not do anything in the world. You can even lean into your talents and be good at something and still not contribute to the world. Like this has been my whole brainstorm the last week, by the way, of like, there's people that have talent. There's talents, and there's what else? What else is there? Or you usually say it the other way around. Talents is usually the second thing. You have a lot of gifts and talents. So God gives us gifts, but we also have talent. And I don't know that talent is necessarily just God given. I think everything's God given, I guess. But like you can be a great athlete, a great this, a great that, and really not impact anybody. And you can live for yourself, or you could have gifts. And the gifts are different than talents. Gifts are like these spiritual things that God gives us. And if we can really lean into our gifts, then wow, that's when we really start doing some big stuff, because it's not about you at that point. We can lean into our talents and do stuff for ourselves. If we lean into our spiritual gifts, we're doing stuff for God. And I think that's where big change happens. And so I think you all have tons of talent, but I think you're also leaning into your spiritual gifts. And I think that about every one of you all. And I think that's why Wade, you just talk about your family, like how much your family has changed. And Abby, like the stuff that you're doing, like the reach that you have. And it's like, you made a comment to me, Wade, that made me kind of uncomfortable.
Love it. Kevin makes me uncomfortable all the time. I'm glad to make him uncomfortable.
The thing you said about me after I spoke the other day, and it made me uncomfortable because I'm like that's a ego, like a thing that you could take to your ego.
Oh, yeah.
And like it.
You want me to say what it was?
You say, because I feel weird saying it.
Well, we're in our.
You say he looked cute,
journey,
or what?
So we're on it.
Did you say he looks cute up there, or what?
Oh, I'm not gonna say
what was
that.
it?
That was on the way back to the hotel room.
Okay, you just so cute.
No. So we're on our Exodus 90 journey right now. In the reading the day before was talking about when Moses came down off Mount Sinai, he had to wear a cover over his face because he had been in the presence of God for so long that it shone through his face, and it was uncomfortable for people to even make like eye contact with him. So he wore a face garment to cover his face when he was out around the people because he spent so much face time with God. And I was telling Kevin, to me, obviously, I feel like his faith journey is way longer than mine has been. He's studied a lot more. I learned so much from him. And then I feel like when he finally gets a chance to go on stage, well, go back a little bit more. Before he went on stage for the 30 minutes leading up, he was sitting there reading his Bible, right? And you were just preparing yourself for the Spirit to work through you on stage. And I told him whenever he came off of it, it kind of brought me back to that story, because I feel like when Kevin gets up or whenever he talks to people about what he wants to accomplish in life, he has a passion where I can see God working through him, honestly. Like, it may not be necessarily Kevin Wynn speaking, but I feel like he has spent so much time in prayer and deep thought, reading all these theologian books that you question me on all the time. And I'm just like, man, I'm not smart enough to combat any of that. And it was like God's presence is shining so strongly through him whenever he gets those opportunities, because I think you do have a good connection on that. So I don't mean it to, I don't want it to be taken to your head.
So all that makes me super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, but I think what I recognize, I think I have a talent for speaking. I never would have thought that about myself. That's something I've discovered about myself as an adult. But
as
an adult,
He's
proper.
That's a master's
Adult?
in marketing word right there. Adult.
Did I say it country?
Adult.
Whatever.
It's Mississippi roots coming out.
Mississippi coming through. But I could be a decent speaker, or I can lean into my gifts, and hopefully, I think maybe, anyways, I think there's a difference there. You know what I mean? So I could be a speaker for myself, but I could give a talk and get, really, it doesn't impact anybody whatsoever. It was a decent talk, but like that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And so, and any of that stuff, like you said, I spend so much time and all that. I think you spend more time than me, honestly, praying, seeking. Honestly, I really believe that. I think most of you all, like all of you all do. But I always say that, like, I have to do that because I'm so horrible with it. Like, I'm such a weak person, and I hate, like, people are like, Kevin, like, and you guys probably get this too because you run and stuff. They're like, oh, you're so disciplined. You're so this, like, or you took the internet off your phone. Like, you're so hardcore. Like, no, I am so stinking weak. Like, that's why I have to take the internet off my phone, because I'm such a weak person that I can't do it myself. And that's what I want people to understand is, like, it's like there's like you have to be willing to make decisions that you don't want, that are hard. Like, they're hard for you to I don't know, they're painful almost. Like it was painful to take the internet off my phone. Like, I wanted that, but I'm so weak. I know I can't have it, And so anyways, I see that with you all. It's like you all have talents, but you're also going deeper into that. Like, you're seeking your gifts and you're using your gifts. And I see that with all of you. And I think, Abby, the reason, and I was talking to Amanda yesterday about this, I think the reason you have such a big following, because you don't care at all about having a lot of followers on social media. Like, that's not why you do it. I'm maybe putting words in your mouth, but that's seems to be, from now that I actually know you, like, you really don't care. Like, you're not trying to be famous. You're just trying to lean into your gifts, and that is making you famous, right?
Yeah, you're very candid. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's when people can see truth, and that's when you start having success, is when you lean into your gifts. It's very different when you start using those gifts for God. Then that's so powerful, and it's and then all of a sudden it's not about you at all anymore. Like, you don't care. And if you're just surface level your talents, then it's all about you. And the whole speaking thing, I'm saying I have talents or gifts or whatever in that, but I am so, like, I can't do that myself. Like, I can't, like, I don't know where that comes from. Or like, did you guys saying the stuff about had painted this vision, or I don't know where that comes from. Like, that is not from me. And there was a time in my life I didn't have that. I remember, sorry, I'm getting on a rant.
I'm about to get sidetracked too.
Yeah, man. So, but just one last thing. Because I've been thinking about this all week.
Let it spew, man.
But one last thing is, I remember in college, I played baseball in Ohio. So I was in Athens, Ohio all summer, and went to college in Louisiana. So I was dating Amanda, my wife. went to college in Louisiana. We're 12 hours apart. Didn't see each other all year, basically. I come home for 3 days. I leave, go up to Athens, Ohio. I'm gone all summer. Don't see her then. We come back. I have a few weeks off before I go back to school. And she surprised me and got tickets to
Moulin Rouge.
No, Kentucky Kingdom,
Okay.
theme park. And I remember, I will never forget this. We went to this, and I was really struggling with faith, and I was just like barely showing up at church, and I was just like a dry well, basically. And I wasn't doing anything bad necessarily. I was just like, whatever, I just, and I was tired all the time. I just remember being tired all the time, like wanted to sleep all the time. And we were at this theme park, and there was like I think they have a wave pool there, and we're sitting there, and I was just like, I just want to take a nap. And I remember her being like, aren't you want to like do something like, or like, I've never even talked to her about this actually. But like, she's like, don't you want to go on a ride? Or I was like, no, I just want to like take a nap. I'm like, and I think back like how, like, I was so just not like leaning into God at all that I was hadn't seen my girlfriend in months. I'm at a theme park and I just want to lay there and sleep. Like, what the heck? But I wasn't filling myself up, and I was just trying to rely on talents, and I had some talent in baseball, and I was miserable with myself. I was miserable. And I was that was 18, or I just turned 19, I guess. I was that way for, long time, like 7-8 years, because I wasn't doing those things. And I realized, man, I've got to do something different. And the whole start the business, faith, all that started all at once. It was all kind of came together.
So Abby, tell us a little bit about your journey to starting with us, because it's been recent. I knew of you just a little bit before the Hot Rod Ultra. Like randomly your stuff and your feeds had popped through on my social media back in the day. What led you to wanting to start to come work for us or even consider us once we kind of posted that job for the account assistant?
Her mentor texted her.
That was the reason she applied. We asked her why she wanted to come here.
I did get a text message from Logan, I will say, but no,
after some pressing from a few other people, I think.
I will say that there does seem to be some sort of track record with observing the employees running before they actually get the job.
That sounds super creepy.
Because no. I went to the Hot Rod Ultra the year before I ran it with my now fiance. At the time, he was my boyfriend, but that was the race that like inspired me to, and I've talked about this a little bit on this podcast, but that was the race that inspired me to run my first marathon. So I did that. And then about, 6 months later, I just started like posting it on social media. Thought I would, start making videos. I had the time to do it and was in this weird place with college and didn't really know where I was going to go. And long story short, ran the ultra the next year because I was super inspired by it. And then that's just how we all got connected pretty much, was through that. And my dad works for Fruit of the Loom, so we knew of Logan and, just, casual friends here and
that
there.
didn't even deter you from working for us.
Yeah.
I know.
So that's pretty interesting right there. Because usually whenever people say that, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to work there.
Yeah.
No.
Just kidding, Logan. Love you,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But then from there, I would receive like occasional text messages here and there from Kevin or Logan of like, hey, we're coming to a workout, or we're doing a workout if you want to stop by, just like little community things here and there. And then I had a previous job, kind of like Logan. I had a previous job and was going to go full time on social media. So I, at the time, was like, okay, love this job. It was great for the time being. And now that chapter is closed, let's go all in on social media, launch a personal training business, like all of it. And then when I started doing that, I got really stressed out with going all in on social media, because although I may have had like the tools to be able to go all in, I'm someone who needs to be around other people. And I was my only coworker. I set my own schedule, which I do like. I do think I'm a determined person, but that also means that I didn't really set boundaries for myself, and I would always get stressed. There's always more to do. I was always editing. I was always on my phone, because your phone is your work at that point. That's literally all it is. So I took it with me everywhere. I just had really, really bad boundaries with it because, like you all, very determined, very passionate about it, but it became a stressor rather than a passion. So I kind of was like, okay, I think I might need to get even just like part-time or some sort of job that brings in, that relaxation of like consistent income like, what is it going to be? I don't know. And then cue a text message from Logan, and he was like, hey, don't know if you know anybody, kind of similar to Kevin. Don't know if you know anybody, but or if you want to.
Yeah, we were strategic with that text for
Yeah.
sure. It wasn't just like, hey, in case you know.
I was like, you said that earlier, like, oh, you just exposed us there.
Yeah.
It's like our
Yeah, but
now that you're in though, we're going to have you send that to somebody eventually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, copy and paste. I'll
Yeah.
scroll up on the text messages. But yeah, long story short, then I kind of briefly told my dad about it, and he was like, Logan's great. You should go for it. That's a great company.
Hear that, Wade?
And
Dude, I believe it 100%. I hope you know. You're
Yeah.
from Hancock County, so we got mutual
Yeah,
respect.
good
so it's
blood,
all good,
baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only thing that was holding me back, which just speaks into how you guys prioritize family and life, the only thing holding me back was that I had this really grand honeymoon trip post marriage for Hawaii. I'm going to go to Hawaii for 5 weeks. And that was the only thing that was holding me back, was like, I'm going to be gone for like so long. No job would ever hire me knowing I'm going to be gone. But Kevin was like, no, we can make it work. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
We actually had to have a conversation later about that. No, I'm just
I was going to say,
Yeah,
he told her
we're going to cut this. We're going to cut this part out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're going to pay
but
Hawaii taxes while you're out there. We can't afford it. It's gonna be bad.
I'll bring y'all back.
Gallon of
something
milk's
if I can.
$15 out there.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe in the MuuvWell app, we might get a couple of videos of me in Hawaii. Who
Yeah,
knows?
there we go.
But,
Get you on the beach.
yeah, on the beach, a little vacation program. I don't know. Who
There we
knows?
go.
But anyways, yeah. So when that was said, not that was like the deciding factor at all, but I knew something was different about this one. I was like, oh, I felt special. I felt prioritized in a way that was like, wow,
Now she knows that we even bought coffee and snacks
Yeah,
for her interview.
Kevin, we've exposed everything.
Yeah, she knows that way.
you're gonna have to tell that story because I don't know the full
That
extent
coffee
of it.
stayed in there too long.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you made it.
But long story short, I came in for a couple interviews and got really excited about it. I started on my morning run, started daydreaming about like what I would hopefully be able to work on with the company. I didn't even have the job yet or anything. And I was just getting so excited about it and it was a passion I didn't even know I had until it was presented. And then I was like, wow, it just goes to show like how good the Lord is and how he knows your plans before you
Yeah.
can even think of it at all, and
Yeah.
yeah, so then I said yes, and now I've been here for I guess almost 2 months, a
Gosh,
month and a
it's
half, and
crazy.
I love it. I love it. I am so excited waking up every morning knowing I'm gonna come here, see all of you guys. I come back from work and I tell my fiance like we just talk about running all the time and we plan fun things and it's just
Yeah.
the greatest ever. So I'm super grateful and I love it.
Awesome.
Well, I think we all saw. I said this 4 months because and if you
did.
sign up for the Hot Rod Ultra, I'm sorry, but we stalk every.
Oh
Single
yeah, we
person that
do.
signs
Yeah,
up.
well, we get an email every single morning. It's like a recap of somebody registered. First thing we do. Did you see so and so that registered? I looked them up.
We look them up. We look them up on social media, the
Yeah.
Strava, and see what kind of runners we're
Make
getting. And we're like,
predictions and-
oh, that's that girl that runs through Briarwood all the time. And I said for months,
Yeah.
I was like, she is going to win that.
Probably
race.
since like April or May.
Yeah, so like
of
she's
last
going
year.
to win that race. And we had some really, really good runners. And then you did win that race. So you made me look smart. But I knew you were going to because I just saw you running all the time. And you can tell, like you can see people and know when they're different just by like, I think it goes back to like when I scouted with my dad, like you can just pick up certain characteristics about people. And like it could see that in you. Like, and then when you start that race, like you could just see it, like something is different. And I think once you won it and validated what we all thought, it was like, and then we needed a position and it was actually perfect because we needed a part-time position and we didn't know you were seeking part-time employment at the time. I was like, she'd be a great fit.
Yeah.
But it just comes back to like, and this ties in so good with the email I'm about to send out to our team about how we have a group of 10 people in payroll and they're all outliers. Like, and you get a group of, oh, I'm getting chills again. You get a group of those people together. Like it's whoa. Like
Yeah.
and I think that's what we're all experiencing here. And that's why it's just so exciting to be here, because it's like you just feed off each other. It's like, and you hear about the early days of Facebook, early days of, like that's what it feels like. And you get a group of people like that in one room, or we're virtual too. Like it's just wow. Like it's just it's really cool the development that happens.
Yeah.
And the self growth because you're around people that are
Oh my
outliers.
gosh, yeah. It's crazy the accountability you get just being.
Yeah.
Speaking of accountability, we've talked about why we started, why you started, how you started. But now, explain what you do.
Yeah.
What is this?
Unless you-
What is this?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
that's right.
Wow.
Shoot,
That was the
guys,
whole
let us
point of
know.
the
I was
podcast today.
really hoping you didn't ask because I don't know what the hell.
I'm not really sure.
Nobody knows
We just
what we're
fire each
doing.
other up and then go home.
I just show up on Monday, do a podcast, and drive home.
And
I don't do
vacuum.
anything.
And vacuum.
And
Like,
vacuum.
I'm cleaning the vacuum.
I
out
was
right now.
thinking today, guys, Abby does not have a cleaning job yet.
Trash. No, I'm kidding.
So we all have Monday morning cleaning jobs, and we have
Well,
not
I
assigned
do.
one
I
to
do
her.
end of day Monday because
I don't know when you do.
I do end of day Monday. Have you noticed that
or
Tuesday
Friday
morning?
maybe instead.
No, I have been doing Monday afternoons because when we get all the trash from the weekend
All
and the
right.
trash.
Outside of us taking out the trash, what we do as a company with MuuvWell.
Yeah, explain.
Y'all
it,
were
Wade.
about to start going on a big fight.
We were, we
gotta
were.
All
hone
I
you
was going to
guys
say
down.
is that my job could be putting the toilet seat down. I could.
That
I
should
could
be
the
our
one to do that.
job. That should be our job.
Y'all should have figured that out now, having wives.
I'm trying to get
of your
better
own.
about
Get
it.
better about it.
What I don't like though is
Yeah.
our before we get sidetracked again. I don't like the toilet's so loud. We have the slow close lids at our house, okay, so they don't slam.
Well, you can
The ones here, it's
set
like,
it
boom.
down.
You can set it
I
down
know,
and
I know, but I'm so used to just boom, bumping it down. So
Excuses.
I don't want to clap in the office here. No, I have been putting it down. So I don't know who's leaving it up. You know what? I'd like for you to raise it up, Abby.
Yeah.
How about you raise it up? There's more of us than there are you. All right, Wade.
Oh gosh.
Kick it off. Kick it off.
What do we do? What a loaded question. There's a lot of things that we have our company. So we're kind of a two-headed monster. In one monster, we're corporate wellness. Second monster, we're injury prevention. So more of my wheelhouse, Kevin's wheelhouse, what the company was built upon was more of the injury prevention aspect. So we'll go on site with companies. We can do job evaluations. We can develop post-offer employment testing for companies. We can staff PTs on site to manage medical spend and injury claims, avoiding recordable injuries, working within OSHA law. We also do virtual injury management for a lot of barge companies across the U.S. as well. So that's more of our injury prevention realm. I'd say it's exciting for me. That's what I get excited about. You all don't get as excited about it, but that's what I really love. You all are more in the corporate wellness world of where we help employees become the best version of themselves. And how we do that looks different for every single employee because every single person isn't a one size fits all. So we try to curtail a lot of our content and a lot of the creation of how we deliver our services to be very individualized for the employee. So we have a team of registered dietitians, personal trainers, and save the best for last, physical therapists that can work with your employees free of charge to them in whatever their needs may be. So we have a lot of ways that we direct outreach to those employees. So we're not a passive wellness program. So if you want a wellness program that just sits in the background, doesn't really actively engage your employees, is just programs for them to act or like to passively select themselves, we're probably not the best solution for you. Our team is constantly reaching out to your employees, whether it be after their medical physical, if they have things they need to work on, if it's after a health risk assessment they fill out, having things they self-select that they want to work on, or working closely with insurance brokers, like understanding their medical claims of, hey, your company is really struggling with a high percentage of diabetic population. Can you create some programs for diabetic management? Of course we can. So there's a lot of different ways that we can engage the employee population. That's where we really get excited about, because we can really move the needle of giving the employee, instead of guessing on what the employees need, we actually understand what the employees need to hear, and then we can start putting out content specific to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes down to our mission is to help people be the best version of themselves. That is our mission statement.
Yep.
And then we stay in corporate wellness because we get to work with a lot of people at companies, and so it's an employer benefit. But then the end result of that for the employer is we get to control their healthcare costs.
Yep.
And so, they benefit from their saving money as a company, but they're also providing a really good benefit to their employees that helps them live better lives.
Yep.
And so, so we stay very true to our mission. And I think I would say that's my personal mission statement too.
Yeah.
And that could evolve over time, and every company is a little different, and we're okay with that, being a little bit more flexible on how do we need to reach this company to help those employees thrive, because every company has their own culture, their own dynamic. And I think having Abby and you Logan, of kind of driving that outreach and content is huge, is a huge part of that. And that's why we wanted people like you, because one, we don't even know how to
We didn't know how to do that.
You're getting better on Instagram. Mine's doing really well, but you're
I've deleted it back off my phone.
It goes
so
Kevin, Abby, Logan, Wade.
No, we didn't know how to do that, and we didn't know how to do that, and that's a great way to connect with people. And,
Yeah.
and one of the pillars of our company is we're relationship driven, and so Abby does a great job. You do a great job, even on on the personal side of establishing relationship with people that you've never met, and so bringing that into our product is special. But yeah, I mean, we just want to help people, and the end result of that for companies is you're going to save money, and you're also going to have a more inspired workforce
And healthier.
workforce. Yeah.
Well, I think what I've found from what going on site with a lot of companies that are local to here now, doing more like client facing stuff, is that I think what people like is that a lot of times when you operate in a pack and everybody's the same, you tend to be like them, right? What's different about us, I think, is when we go on site to these places, whenever clients work with us, they see that we're unique, and we're like, no, you should do something that's scary, and we're pushing them to do those things. Is they are like, okay, this is normal. Like, this is normal to them. Like, yeah, I want to do it then.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever we kind of act as the shock factor, or like that like shove in the back for people, they're like, okay, this is what I wanted to do anyway. I was just kind of scared to do it. And I think that's what's so different about us compared to, I always refer to them as like the PDF wellness companies that like you go on their app or their website, and you click and you download like their 10-page PDF, and it's like one workout, one stretching program, diet tips, and that's it. Whereas we're real people. We don't like contract people to do work for us. Like, they're getting real people to interact with them. And I think that's what's different, is that, like I said, we kind of provide that shock factor for people, but also like that accountability and the push to like, I wanted to do this anyway. I've wanted to lose weight anyway. I've wanted to run a 5K anyway. I've wanted to create a meal plan anyway and prep my meals for the week. Well, that's what we can help you do. I think that's what's really cool about it.
And I think becoming the best version of yourself, and this is all playing out in my brain as we're having this conversation, this is making sense to me all of a sudden. It's giving gifts and talent, like helping people understand what their gifts and talents are. Right. Like, if we can do that, and I think and you see it too, we'll come on site, I'll do this public speaking engagement or whatever, and people come up to you and they're like, I used to like this. This happened at our last talk. The guy came and talked to us forever about what he used to do. You could tell he still wanted it to do it, and it's like, I think God puts stuff on people's heart, and they just suppress, or they distract. And I think hopefully what we do is we get people to think about those things a little bit. And that's the last talk I gave. I mean, I started off and I had them just sit there quiet for 30 seconds.
Wasn't awkward at all.
Yeah.
I have a room of 300 people, and they're just, I was
Really
like,
good.
And it's because I don't think people think about that enough.
We don't quiet the distractions long enough to sit there quietly for 30 seconds.
What makes them
There's
stop
always
thinking
noise.
about whatever you're thinking about? You think about, I mean, if we were to start this podcast and whatever I had in my brain was already kind of going, but then we have like a prayer 30 seconds before we start, and that kind of allows my brain to shut off.
Yeah. So as a company, that's what we do. We help people live better. We help companies save money. But also, I think a big part of this is we just get people to think. Yeah. Just think. Like, and I was thinking a lot this weekend too about and last week about this thing I have on my wrist and all these things that are giving us inputs all the time, right? Like, this watch tells me what my body battery is right now. There's just all these things. We can wear a ring that can tell us that, or whatever. We're obsessed with it, right? We're so obsessed with closing rings on our Apple Watch or whatever your mechanism is.
Hold on, I'm going to stand up.
Yeah. Whatever your mechanism is that gives you input that tells you you're living right, we're obsessed with.
Yeah.
Who even knows that those things are right? Well, and what I mean by that, who is validating these algorithms? Yeah. Like, how do I know this Garmin body battery even makes sense?
Yeah.
And the reason I ask that is this thing on my wrist, this thing in my hand, it's a machine that was created by man, right? But our brains, our hearts, our bodies are uniquely designed and created by God. There is nothing in this world that can ever be created that can be better than God's greatest creation, which is the human being. I mean, he says that in the Bible, right? And we think this thing is going to have to tell me how I'm feeling, or I can go sit by a creek and I can listen to God. I can listen to my body, how I'm feeling. I can let my brain tell me how I'm feeling. And then I can actually follow those passions and those gifts. But if I don't do that, I mean, I'm literally going on life distracted. And I told you, Wade, on the way in today, there was a car with a bumper sticker that said, "I'd rather be watching Grays." And I was like, and this person has never thought about this bumper sticker. They just know they like Grey's Anatomy. And I'm
They think
sorry,
it's funny,
whoever you
yeah.
are. But to me, I'm like, that is the saddest thing I've ever seen, because you'd rather spend time watching a show that isn't real, and creating a feeling inside of you than understanding what's actually going on in your life, or talking to the person next to you. Like, that's really sad, actually. And I was watching this commercial the other night. So we watched the show the other night, Wade, and about King David. So it was biblical, at least.
Very good. Very good.
And there was and it's funny. So I hadn't watched TV in 50 days, and so I broke it a little bit. And we watched this show, and one of the commercials was for a mental health prescription. There's all they put on TV now is ads for prescription drugs, right? Have you noticed that?
We're one of 2 countries that allow that.
Yeah. Who's the other ones? Like Australia? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm watching this ad, and I forget what it was for specifically. Some kind of depression or something. I can't remember what it was specifically, but it was this female person in the ad, and I'm just seeing what they're trying to tell me in this ad. And as she walks into, she's on this prescription, she's smiling, and she's walking into a cafe, and a guy like checks her out and kind of waves at her, and she kind of like boosts. And then she goes into the meeting in the cafe, and she's like the center of attention, and she's got her iPad, and she's directing the conversation. And then she gets her food, and they show a salad coming to her. And I was thinking about that. And so basically what they're trying to portray to this individual is that if you take this pill, you're going to be sexy, you're going to be on point and smart, and you're going to make healthy eating choices. And it's so much we let outside exposure tell us what we need to believe or do or think or feel, when really literally the greatest creation ever in the history of the world is you. Like, think about the weight of that. Like, the human person is the greatest creation that's ever. I mean, we heal ourselves, we can think and make decisions, we can react, and we are obsessed with technology that does that for us. So anyways, being able to rely on that, hopefully we get people to think about that stuff. Of like, you can do a lot more than you think. And that's always the premise of my talks, to get people to think and realize that they're designed for more, and I hope that's what our product does for people.
God, I wish they would get rid of those commercials. I wish they would get rid of that. That is ridiculous. It drives me absolutely insane. There's somebody,
not that those things aren't needed, and people need.
But they shouldn't be able to be on TV.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous, insane. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I think a lot of times what people struggle with when they hear about what we do is like, how can I be involved? And it is hard because we operate business to business. Like, we provide services to other companies for their employees. We're not necessarily direct consumer. But one thing I think we do a good job of and are starting to do a better job of is providing community for people to be involved and be a part of. Obviously, physically in person here in Bowling Green, but then also online. Like, we're doing a lot of cool stuff on Instagram, on YouTube, and we're showing more of who we are. And some shameless plugs: MuuvWell on YouTube, MuuvWell on Instagram, MuuvWell Podcast on Instagram. Is a good way I think where we're really able to showcase like who we are, our personalities, like more of like a fun side, where we don't have to be as like intentional, and we can just kind of show like, hey, here's who Logan is, here's who Wade, Kevin, and Abby are. Like, this is what we do, and these are kind of our personalities. And I think that's a way for people to connect with us. And when you think about, like, you listen to podcasts or you watch videos, it's like you want to know who those people are. And I think that's what I would like to show more of this year, is like who we are. Like, we seem like this unique company, but like, who is Wade? Who is Kevin? And so just trying to give you all more of a way to connect with us without, always being able to be in person. So if you all want a way to do that, I highly encourage you to go check us out on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. We're kind of on all platforms now. Am I missing anything, Abby?
I was going to add that we have Athletic Club coming up March 17th at 5:30. Here at the MuuvWell office, if you are Bowling Green local, or if you want to drive in.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on in.
We'll let you sleep at the office.
Yeah.
Stay the night here.
You can stay at Logan's house, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Free protein shakes, free
post his address in the
supplements.
comments.
I will. Phone number, social security, all of it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to add is that September 27th, got to plug it, the BG Hot Rod Ultra Marathon that we've been talking about will be happening again. The biggest race of the year in the entire world ever, in my opinion. My most favorite race I've ever
Second
done.
Boston Marathon, but close.
Yeah, close.
It's a close second.
Boston.
Yeah.
It's a close second.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff, a lot of fun stuff to do. Hot Rod Ultra. You can go to hotrodultra.com to check that out. And then pretty much all of our socials, you can find us at MuuvWell. So thanks for tuning in today. Hope you got something from it. Get
Hope
out
you're
and move.
thinking.
Hope we got you thinking. Hope you get outside and move today. Take 30 seconds of silence, and we'll catch you next week.